Yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party. It's driven by Mungan S. Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. My name is Tim McKernan. That is Jackson Burkett. And this is your show, The People's Show. Welcome in. I'm wearing a stocking cap. I just realized I picked it up from the TMA studios.
Well,
take it off.
Okay.
I like the stocking cap. You have this, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
It's got the little TMA rooster, the logo, the whole thing. But I can't hear my headphones as well.
Really? If I wear a beanie and then wear headphones over it, my ears...
Maybe it's because my headphones jack was messed up.
That could be the case.
Take that back.
My ears start to really hurt. The cartilage in my ear gets really...
What happens?
If I wear a beanie and then put my headphones over it, really puts a lot of pressure on my ears, and it hurts.
Really?
My ears actually hurt afterwards, yeah. Huh. Now I've switched to buds, so probably alleviate that issue.
I think I look cute. I want all the guys, only guys, please, in the Balloon Party YouTube chat to let me know if you want me to keep it on or if you want me to take it off for you.
Yeah, and then we'll tally it up and get that for segment 2.
Tim, if you play golf like you talk about the Blackhawks situation, I will happily give you 3 to 4 a side, LOL. That's from Chris Angle. Chris, I need to see your United States golf handicap index before we would arrange that, and then I would study it with my people and then determine whether or not we would proceed out there. One of the core issues with me going out there with strangers is probably I don't want to spend time with you. All due respect. All due respect. Say it with all due respect. But if it can be profitable, if the dollar figure's high enough, then perhaps I would pursue it. I don't know, but I need to see the handicap index first before we were to do that, and then I'd studied it to determine the legitimacy of it. Yeah, yesterday people really wanted me to talk about the Blackhawks and the Bedard and the Corey Perry deal, and we just talked about it with Jeremy Rutherford on TMA, and the reason why I didn't talk about it is because I'm scared of it. The media in this town's soft. It's an embarrassment. Everybody's a fraud. I'll tell you the truth. Is because I look at it as it's defamatory.
Right.
And I want to reiterate something I may have said before to you, Jackson. I am a godless pervert. And so therefore I recognize I'm on no moral high ground. But this is, I suppose it's... Well, I don't suppose. Clearly, it's amusing to large numbers of people, but I can't help but put myself in the position of the Bedard family and be nobody's confirmed this. It's just a tweet screenshot that then has taken on a life of its own to the point of the Blackhawks holding a press conference yesterday about it. And so, kind of living by the code of, how would I like to be treated? I certainly wouldn't enjoy that, and it is defamatory.
Right.
So I want to. That's why it's a different set of circumstances for me than just making fun of our nonsense or something that we know to be true, and as opposed to that. I don't want to. If people want to keep mocking it, be my guest. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that's why I didn't do it. You do. You know what I say? Some people like things, some people don't like other things. To each their own.
Right. It's one thing when you're shooting the breeze with your buddies about a topic like this. It's totally cool. It's a whole other thing to go on live radio and discuss things that up to this point are simply rumors.
Right.
So it would be unethical and also
bringing in. I kind of live by the mafia code. More IRA. Kind of the troubles in the North, and not necessarily La Cosa Nostra. But we leave the families out of it. Yeah. We leave the families out of it.
Yeah.
So, now listen, if the Blackhawks said yes, the story regarding Corey Perry and Connor Bedard's mother are true, and that's why we parted ways with him, then okay, well then now you got something.
That'd be a PR happy.
What a press conference it would be.
Wow.
But at this point, it's a guy with a screenshot secondhand from somebody at TNT or something, and it's we want to believe it's true, so therefore we'll...
Right. It's funny, but these are human beings, and they have lives, and we don't need to go digging into that,
So anyway, that's where I am on it. But again, if people want to talk about it, if everybody else other than me wants to talk about it, then they're welcome to. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm on no moral high ground. If as a matter of fact, I might be a demon. I think there's a chance I'm a demon.
Possible.
A tiny little demon boy. But just when you're talking about somebody's mom on, St. Louis radio station.
Yeah.
That's just to me, for me, individually, that's a different thing than, busting balls on some other topic. That's where I am. That's where I'm not scared to talk about anything. That's my explanation for where I am on it, Jackson.
Yeah,
I think but hey, if you boys in the YouTube chat want to talk about it, be my guest. God bless. That's your own thing. I'm just telling you, I am at a different spot with my responsibility, how I view it. Nobody heard Hubbard said, hey, can't talk about the Bedard thing. Jackson, what do we have here today on the program? I know we have the Air Comfort Service text inbox, 314-399-9646. We, of course, have the YouTube chat, always active with the Airlines team studio cameras. That's 101 ESPN channel on YouTube. What do you have for the people? What do you got going on? You got that lid looking so good. People are buzzing about it. Kind of an old money look. It's starting to get old money. Mm-hmm. No product, but longer hair. That's very old money.
Yeah. The Big Quaff is what they're calling me.
Yeah.
And the Big Quaff has delivered another wide berth Wednesday for the ages.
Unbelievable. That's not easy to put together a wide berth Wednesday.
No, see, that's the common misconception is that people hear wide berth Wednesday, they're like, oh, you have no plan.
Right.
But when you plan for something that's also so sporadic and so
unplanned.
Well, again, this rhetoric I'm not on board with. It's actually more difficult to plan for something like this. So, I don't need credit. I don't need validation.
You need a ridiculously talented host who can just walk in to a blank canvas and go Jackson Pollock on that bitch.
Yeah, that's certainly one way to look at it.
All right, let's go spraying, boys. What do we have? What's question one today?
Question one.
I assume it involves Pittsburgh and the University of Missouri basketball program and the first half.
No. See, I'm, as an artist, when I see the wide canvas, it
involves St. Louis University and Missouri's first-round opponent, Utah State.
No. See, as an artist, I see a blank canvas.
If Kansas would have lost to Eastern Illinois, it would have involved Kansas and Eastern Illinois.
That actually might have been. But I get the paintbrush. I don't just paint what colors I want. I think about other people. And so in that,
oh my gosh,
I'm going to talk about Sonny Gray. With the news being reported that Sonny Gray's 3-year deal is backloaded and his cap hit will only be $10 million for 2024.
Who's reporting this news?
This is Michael Gianniti of Spotrac.
Okay.
He's got like 115,000 followers on Twitter.
I judge a man by his follower count.
Certainly, but Spotrac does have some credible information.
I agree with that part.
I would like to officially cash out our bet we made yesterday.
You have actually Venmo'd yesterday, for those of you not listening to Balloon Party yesterday, and that would be like a handful of people in the metropolitan area. I bet Jackson $20 that the Cardinal rotation on opening day would be different than what it is right now, which is Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Steven Matz. Jackson was of the opinion that it would be who they have right now.
Yep.
You have decided to Venmo me $10 because I offered you a buyout.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you make that decision, boy?
Well, I think the Sonny Gray's deal being backloaded, if that is the case, would mean that the Cardinals are trying to make more moves, whether it's for bullpen arms or starting pitching arms, which you would think, given the backloading deal, now you've only spent, $31 million as opposed to 48. That's a big difference, that they are looking to get somebody else with that money. If $200 million is the threshold in which we're working off of, which would be, experts would tell you, is that probably going to be the case. Having said that, if that is the case with Sonny Gray's backloaded deal, I would think that there could be some more to come. And that means I will save $10 if that ends up being true.
I think you're making the right call. I accept your $10 Venmo and appreciate it. And my thought process has been that the reason why the Cardinals have been so quote-unquote aggressive, and by aggressive I mean signing 3 pitchers, not necessarily spending money, although they have absolutely spent money too, is because they have protected the floor for the offseason. Now, if the offseason were to end tomorrow, they know they have 5 guys who theoretically, if you include Matz in there, can eat innings. And you have a guy who many would consider a 1, although I am aware that Cardinal fans are debating whether or not Sonny Gray is a 1. I think a lot of that is because people don't really feel like there's an obvious 2. Mm-hmm. So I think if they got Montgomery, for example, I think people would feel better about Sonny Gray because he'd be paired with Montgomery as opposed to whoever it would be now. I guess Michaelis.
Yep.
And that doesn't really feel like a 1 and a 2. It might feel like a 1 or 1.5 and a 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason for that debate. But either way, that the Cardinals now can go, okay, now we can go balls to the wall with whether it be trade discussions or free agency because we now have the floor protected. We are not acting from a position of desperation, which is what I think exactly took place last December. They thought they were going to get Sean Murphy, and then they were going to spend money on a free agent pitcher, and then when they didn't get Murphy or weren't comfortable with the price that they would have to pay for Murphy, then they got in a panic mode, overpaid for Contreras, and go, oh my God, we just spent a bunch of money on a guy that we weren't planning on signing, and that money now takes up the pitchers, and look who's left on the pitching market. Crap, what are we going to do? Oh, we'll win 71 games. That is what I think has taken place. I could be wrong. I am trying to piece together incomplete information.
I also think 2021's offseason could play a part in that, where they only got Steven Matz, then a work stoppage happened, and they didn't get anybody else. Obviously, there's no work stoppage on the horizon, but I think that could also play a factor in them wanting to make sure they get guys to be in a better position to be competitive in 2024. And like you said, not have to throw up a Hail Mary and end up overspending on somebody.
So Jackson has bought out of the wager. That doesn't mean I win in Predictionary.
No.
And it doesn't necessarily even mean I won the bet, but I have $10 more, which I've already turned into 100 since you Venmo'd me. I mean, that's just how quickly I move it.
I get it.
And my bet still is that the Cardinals will have a different starting rotation than the one that they have right now. But maybe I will be wrong. I think that is their plan. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Just because I think that that's going to happen. I think that's what their plan is, and I think that's why they've acted in the manner they have. And whether they trade Matz or Michaelis, I don't know. But that's what I think is going to be part of a deal that will either take money off the books to free up for a free agent, or bring in a pitcher such as Glasnow, Cease, or Bieber. Your thoughts, 314-399-9646. It is a Wide Berth Wednesday here on Balloon Party. You are welcome to give your thoughts via the YouTube chat, where 168 Friends of the Feather have gathered. And you also can text in the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. My name is Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett. Talking Blues and another disappointing performance on the road against a team that was in a death spiral, just like the Sharks 12 days ago. Last night it was the Wild, and more from Wide Berth Wednesday here on Balloon Party, 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party. It's 101 ESPN. My name is Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett, and you can watch us on 101 ESPN's YouTube channel. You can listen to us here on 101 ESPN and live stream it, podcast courtesy of Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Jackson, we're in the midst of a wide berth Wednesday. What is your second question?
We'll talk a little Blues hockey here.
Well, Blues hockey, 3-1 loss last night at the hands of the Wild. We'll see you against the Buffalo Sabres tomorrow night at Enterprise Center, pregame 6 p.m. right here on 101 ESPN.
Indeed. I'm going to take a little bit more macro look at it, a little bit bigger picture look, and maybe not just hockey, but all sports. We talked about today on TMA, and I've talked about several times before, and last night against the Wild was a prime example. What do you think is the reasoning for teams getting a kind of a burst after a new coach is implemented?
That's a good question. I don't know. I notice it in a lot of sports, though. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, the Blues had this 8-1-1 record on the dad's trips, but as a gambler, I wouldn't have touched. You did bet the Blues last night.
I did.
I wouldn't have touched it because of the new coach thing, and otherwise, I probably would have. Honestly, I don't have an explanation as to the why. I would imagine my theory is it's not because they hated the old guy. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure in some cases that is the case. It looks like the Raiders, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce would be an example of recent history in the NFL. And I know you're a big Dean Evison guy. I mean, you spent the whole show yesterday talking about him.
I think the Blues loss and me betting it, with my penance for the loss on both for the Blues and my money, was because I didn't know who that guy was.
But you knew you played for the Capitals and Whalers.
Right, in the mall.
In the mall, thank you. Is because then players might go, oh boy, nobody else to blame now. And it's their jobs.
Yeah, kick it up a little bit.
Certain guys know they're good. And by that I mean, like Jordan Kyrou is good. And by good, I mean financially. Might not have a great start to his season so far offensively, but financially, he's good. Robert Thomas, he's good. He's got his money. But if you're a third or fourth line guy or a bottom pairing guy and you're going, oh boy, they whacked the coach, we're next, maybe it gets you up a little bit more than you otherwise would have been if you look at it from the hockey perspective.
Right.
I absolutely feel like it is a positive in the NFL more often than a negative.
Yes.
And then for some reason, and I don't really know why, in college football, and I guess it's probably because they don't do it usually in college football unless it involves Auburn until November, that the team's already,
right.
They obviously had high expectations, otherwise the coach wouldn't get fired. Or they were riding around on a motorcycle with an intern. And then they came up short, which means the team sucks.
Right.
And then they're playing out the string. And if it's like a rivalry week game, that team might be still fired up for it. And they still beat the hell out of the new coach team. Mississippi State, Ole Miss last week had an interim coach before they got Jeff Lebby.
Yeah.
Guy goes out there riding around on a motorcycle when Mississippi State takes the field. They played Ole Miss tight, but it still didn't translate. In the NFL, I think I actually did in that Circa Millions thing that I'm in Las Vegas. I took the Raiders when they had their first game back. I don't know who it was against. It might have been the Patriots. I don't know. But either way, they won it. And that's the new coach effect, especially in the middle of a season, you know. Yeah. But then there are some teams, like I don't think if the Commanders were to whack Ron Rivera, they would all of a sudden turn into a great team.
No.
You know?
Football, I feel like, is especially college, like you have such a program established with a coach, you know, like you're so used to things, and then when that gets turned on its head, I feel like it's just like almost discombobulating. And now with the transfer portal, coach gets fired, guys are immediately like looking like, where's my next step going to be?
Absolutely. Continuity is so valuable. It's just there's a patience that I think is such a virtue in college football. I really do. Especially at a place like a Missouri, for example, where you can't be just turning. Oh, like Tennessee has killed itself by going through so many damn coaches ever since firing Phil Fulmer. And I think continuity is valued in part because what you just mentioned, the portal. In baseball, we've seen it. Going back 20 years, Jack McKeon led the Marlins to a World Series, and he was, I think, in his mid-70s when he did so. Joe Girardi was fired, and the Phillies went on their run and beat the Cardinals in the first round in 2022. We've certainly seen it. Mike Schilt, if you want to take it from a local standpoint, in 2018, the Cardinals didn't get in, but they went on a run.
Yeah, they're a lot better.
So it can have an effect, and sometimes it is an issue with the manager. But I just tread lightly from a gambling standpoint when I see that change, and that's why I was just like on full-on fade mode. And also the memory of the Sharks game 12 days ago, I'm going, just because a team's in a death spiral doesn't mean the Blues aren't capable of laying one of their eggs. Because the Blues can go out and beat the hell out of a team, or the Blues can go out and have a second period like they had last night. And while they were still in the game, courtesy of Jordan Binnington, 17 shots on goal. Sweet mother of mercy from a team on a 7-game losing streak. They were just dominated. Binnington keeps them in it, but they weren't able to break through. And again, I mean, this power play situation is you're getting historical here. And I mean, you can say it's got to change, but it's 21 games in. At some point you go, well, this just might be who it is. 21 games, large enough sample size. What time we got? 10:20. I got time for another question here in this Little Piddles Wide Berth Wednesday.
Absolutely. And it's the coaching talk actually leads into this question because I think it's a kind of a quick hitter, and I find it interesting. It's a story from the weekend. This text saying, "I'm coaching hire is crazy to me. Did it seem to you that A&M did a soft launch with reports circling around Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops being the next coach? Then when the reaction was poor, do you think they abandoned ship, or do you take Mark Stoops' word as gospel and Mike Elko was their backup plan in College Station?"
One of the things I haven't really heard talked about with this is that Stoops used it for leverage the whole time, and he was the leak, or his agent was the leak.
That's something I haven't considered.
Yeah, I mean, when that was playing out, I mean, before it even was announced on Saturday night, all I did was watch college football on Saturday.
Yeah,
my wife was sick, and so we were at home anyway, and all I did, I mean, from 11 o'clock all the way through, just watch college football, and just, God, I just absolutely love it. And Missouri wasn't even playing. And so I monitored that while watching Florida State. I had bet the money line on Florida to beat Florida State. And I'm watching this news run parallel, a few hours after Louisville had lost to Mark Stoops in Kentucky. And my first thought was, I don't think Mark Stoops really wants to go to College Station. I could see somebody in his camp leaking this to get Kentucky to pony up.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That's an interesting,
the old Matt Painter play.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's and that. I hadn't really considered that, and I would be.
I just the whole thing with social media had backlash. It's just like, I get that. I think that's oftentimes overvalued. Mm-hmm. If you live in the social media world, that's your world. But the guys who are on the board at College Station are probably doing well financially. Be my guess. I don't know that. It's just an intuitive thing. Ross Bjork, the AD, probably doing well financially. You don't pay a coach $75 million to go away if we aren't flush with cash.
Right.
And I don't think they go, hold on a second. There's some people on Twitter not happy about this. I just don't think that that's the way that it works. So
I'd be surprised.
But that's what a lot of people think happened.
Oh, I know. That's why I put the question.
Right. No, I understand that. I just think Stoops was using it for leverage.
Right.
Like, that's not the way a story. It was so odd to me the way that it went. Like, the Mark Stoops talks are getting serious, and I'm like, well, if it's happening, then it's happened. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
So then, to me, it was Stoops is like, hey, we can use this to get a better deal at Kentucky. And he had spoken the week before playing Missouri, if memory serves, about how Kentucky fans, if they want to compete with Georgia, they need to spend at NIL like Georgia does.
Yep.
Well, that was his opportunity for leverage. Listen, I know very little about Mark Stoops, but you got to have a certain kind of personality, I think, to want to deal with College Station. College Station, Auburn, and Knoxville are different operations than a lot of the SEC schools. And there is an expectation that may be unfounded as to what they really are. And, I mean, A&M hasn't won a conference championship since '98, a year in which Missouri really probably should have beaten them in College Station. And had they done so, their last conference championship would be well before that. But the expectations and the money are there for them to act bat crap. And if you're Mark Stoops and you're going, yeah, I'm a multi-millionaire and I can win 7 games and not worry about losing my job in Lexington because they're always going to be more obsessed about basketball. Yep. And occasionally I'll win 10 and I'll be a god.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of comfortable with that. And I'm going from the antithesis or to the antithesis of that if I go to College Station. The only thing worse would be going to Auburn or Tennessee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Tennessee.
So I just looked at that from the moment I started percolating on the Twitter tweets and go, I think Stoops is leveraging this thing to get a deal at Kentucky. And then I went to bed at like 10:30, and I'm like, I guess Stoops is really going to be the NM coach. And then I wake up and I read Gabe DeArmond's column, and I'm like, oh, Stoops wound up staying at Kentucky. My read was right from the beginning. So maybe my read was right for unfounded reasons. Maybe it really was about the social media backlash. I just piss on social media backlash. I think I'm biased in that just in its origin.
I guess I didn't see that angle of it because I was just so enamored by the fact.
I haven't seen anybody else say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be, as I always say, I'm not trying to be Colin Cowherd contrarian. I'm really not. I'm just telling you what I observed, and I observed that in the moment. I'm like, I think, because again, if Stoops was really going there, if it were done, it's done.
Mm-hmm. No, you
see what I'm saying?
There's no, I don't
think the leak came from College Station.
Right. The soft launch doesn't exist.
I think the leak came from Lexington or wherever Stoops' agent's located.
Sure.
Probably Jimmy Sexton. I assume he's the agent for every college football coach. At least he was Drinkwitz's. He's not anymore. Your thoughts are welcome. 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line. You're also welcome to partake in the chat and YouTube on the 101 ESPN channel. My name is Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett. Jackson, tease the people with what's coming up next on this Wide Berth Wednesday. What do we have? I know, Andy, I want to play that sound from the Athletic writer and not liking the Cardinal moves.
Okay.
I definitely want to do that. But what else do you have on this Wide Berth Wednesday?
Talking about chaos scenarios for conference championship
the
weekend.
rankings came out last night, and Ole Miss fans who were hoping to pass Missouri did not get their wish, and how this thing will play out this weekend. Your thoughts are welcome on that topic. It's coming your way, along with the soundbite from an Athletic writer who does not like the Cardinal moves. That's next here on Balloon Party 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN channel on YouTube.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues lose last night. Final score of 3-1 to the Minnesota Wild. The Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they take on the Buffalo Sabres. You can catch that game right here on the home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6 p.m. and the puck drops at 7. And last night, the Milwaukee Bucks defeat the Miami Heat 131-124. Giannis Antetokounmpo with 33 points. The Bucks now clinch a spot in the knockout round of the NBA in-season tournament. That was another SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. Balloon Party, 101 ESPN, 101 ESPN YouTube channel, youtube.com, and then just type in 101 ESPN. The next thing you know, you're viewing us. And Jackson, your hair changed from the last segment, it looks like.
Did it?
Yeah, I feel like you ran your fingers through your hair, and I just noticed it right now.
Here, let me see if I can fix it.
See what you can see there. How's it looking now?
If I turn my head to look at the monitor,
Yeah.
I then no longer can see
I see.
the front of my head.
I like it. I'm jealous of it, and that's just what we need to talk about here on the program. Hey, I told the audience we would play the soundbite from Andy McCullough from The Athletic. Is that correct?
Yes,
and
sir.
he is not high on the Cardinals' moves. Here's what he had to say.
If I were a Cardinals fan and I was, having a slice of pizza with Provel on it after an appetizer of mozzarella sticks called toasted ravioli, I would wonder why they jumped so quickly on guys that look more like backfilling, I guess, bulk, 10 million for Kyle Gibson. I mean, he had a 5 the last 2 years. I would be curious to know if they're, I don't know, maybe, they can still add more pitchers, but you would like guys with maybe a little bit less assuredness and I'd rather spend that 10 million on a guy who might turn into Alex Cobb or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Lucas Giolito, you have a ceiling there.
Yeah, I mean, right. You can't just say who's the guy? Oh, well, they should go get Jack Flaherty. No.
Luis Severino.
That's not a fit, but I don't know, the downside risk with Severino is he pitches 5 games and is terrible, right? Whereas you're just kind of locking in 400, 200 to 300 innings of 4.5 ERA baseball. I don't know how crazy I am about that.
I enjoy where he's coming from because that helps represent where I think a lot of Cardinal fans are. And I get that. The reason why I don't have that reaction to the signings is because I don't see that as what the Cardinal plan is. Mm-hmm. But if you view the Cardinal offseason plan as the pitching is now tended to and over with, I get that. I don't think that's what the plan is. Now, even if the plan is to do something else, which I believe it is, that doesn't mean they will be able to accomplish it. But if you were going, the Cardinals really want to return to championship contention, and that's what they've got in the rotation, and take the discussion of Sonny Gray's an ace and Sonny Gray's a 2 out of it, still you have to have 4 other pitchers, and in the playoffs you at least have to have 2 other pitchers. And you're going to tell me you're going to be good enough with Miles Mikolas, Lance Lynn, Steven Matz, and Kyle Gibson to get through a playoff series? There's no way. I would agree with that, but I just don't think that the Cardinals are viewing it that way. And the reason why I think that is because they did what they did so quickly. So maybe I will be wrong. The reason why you bought out of our bet is because the report saying that deal for Gray is super backloaded and he's only making 10 of that 75 in 2024.
Yep.
So then 65 is coming in the final 2 years. So they're trying to free up some dollars to be aggressive for this upcoming, baseball winter meetings, and whether that be via trade or a free agent. That's what it tells me. That's what it tells me. If I were sitting at the poker table, I would be all in on that. But if they aren't able to do a deal that they think they will be able to do, whether it be with Glasnow, Cease, Bieber, or a free agent, they then can go, okay, we at least now have this rotation, and it's going to get us through the year with not having to get into a spot like they did in 21, where they were signing Jay Happ and John Lester to just eat innings, or trade for John Lester and Jay Happ just to eat innings at the end of the season because it had destroyed their pitching staff by not having innings-eating starters. So that's what I think the Cardinals are doing. I don't know that. That's what I think they're doing. And they've already been able to tell their fan base that, hey, we went out and spent nearly $50 million on starting pitchers, even though apparently, if this report that you cited is accurate, Jackson, in reality, it's what, $32 million, $33 million.
Yeah. 10.
They still need to tend to the bullpen without question, and there will be trades. There will be trades. There just won't, or at least a trade. I don't know how there wouldn't be. Once again, I would love to see Yamamoto. I will continue to say that over and over again. But for what they have done right now, I love it because they are maintaining flexibility and not risking dead money on the back end of contracts, which I think can destroy franchises, at least franchises that have to really monitor their expenses. And hell, the Mets would be a franchise that you would say probably doesn't have to monitor their expenses, and even they now feel like they have to monitor their expenses after their shopping spree last year for older pitchers. And those were not long-term deals, but they just burned them with Scherzer and with Verlander. Your thoughts are welcome, 314-399-9646, or you can participate in the YouTube chat. Jackson, what are your thoughts?
On the
McCullough sound we played.
Yeah, I mean, I just think what you're getting with Lance Lynn and Gibson, you like you said, like you're secure in the floor. Agree with all that, and I think at like the high side of all three of the acquisitions you've got is good, like legitimately good. Like Sonny Gray at his high side is great, and then Lynn had a ton of strikeouts last year. Obviously, the ERA and the home runs thing is glaring, and Gibson gave up a lot of hits, but at their best, like they are good. I have some trepidations about the way that the Cardinals have brought in pitching and performed. But these guys are later in their career. You know, if you bring up younger guys and you're trying to be competitive this year, you haven't done much to prove that you can develop pitching talent in real time. So I like the idea of getting veterans in here. I also like the idea of acquiring another one, through trade or through free agency.
And now you think they are going to?
I think it is much more likely given the backloading deal. I also have a conspiracy theory in my head that I'm not going to share yet. I really got to work it out.
Oh, you can't do that.
I got to work it out.
You can't tell the people you have a conspiracy theory on the Cardinals and say you're not going to do it. Not a day after the Dean Evison debacle.
I want to
win the audience back. Share your conspiracy theory.
Okay. And this is a conspiracy theory, totally speculation.
Wow. What do we have
Totally
here?
speculation. So they backload the deal. Next year, you will have Paul Goldschmidt coming off the books. We all know that the Bally situation is very fluid.
I think the Bally situation is material to the conversation.
It's very material. I think if the Cardinals were going to, quote unquote, spend money, but under the guy, like saying they're spending a lot of money, because right now it's like, oh, they spent a good amount of money. But if they're trying to slowly but surely lower that payroll with Goldschmidt coming off the books next year, you can kind of shut it down this year, and it looks like you spent a bunch of money, but really you're spending $10 million on Gray this year and $35 down the road in 2 years. And then Goldschmidt comes off the book next year, and now we're lowering again that payroll. It's slowly coming down.
Oh, wow.
Slowly coming down. All while the fans aren't going to say, oh, well, this is, they're not spending money. Well, they got Sonny Gray. They got Lance Lynn. They got Kyle Gibson. I don't know. I think it's like a very subtle.
Well, then if that were the case, then you would expect them not to bring on anybody else.
Right. That's like that. I put this conspiracy theory in the single-digit % of likelihood. So I think 90% that they are trying to get somebody. But I think this is like you could kind of backdoor your way to spending less money while looking like you're spending more.
I agree. Yeah. I think that the Bally's thing is a real thing. People might not like it. They may not have heard the Cardinals talk about it. They might blame the Cardinals for it. I don't really know how you can blame the Cardinals for it. Other organizations are dealing with it at much worse circumstances than the Cardinals. But I think it's a real thing. If I operated a business and all of a sudden a third of our revenue that we were counting on when we put together our projections 2 years ago is gone, well, that would impact the business. Now, you might not like it because you don't like a guy wearing a bow tie and a guy tying a cardigan sweater around his neck, but it doesn't change the fact that if you were operating that business, it would count. So it counts. So I've thought about that with regard to the way they're handling this thing as well. Like, okay, we're going all out and we'll do it early, and then that way we can get people to get on board with the season tickets.
Yeah, and then we'll quietly backload.
So I don't think I don't think that's as asinine a suggestion. I just don't look at it like, you don't go, at least I don't, maybe people do. I don't think many people are in St. Louis or who are Cardinal fans around the country going, okay, this is a World Series contender now. There are now 5 starting pitchers on the 40-man who are major league starters.
Yeah, plenty of service time.
But I don't think the Phillies and Braves and Dodgers and whoever else around the National League and in the National League Central are going, oh boy,
right.
The Cardinals are now a team that we gotta ratchet up our arms race because look what the Cardinals have done.
Yeah.
So that is my perspective. And in addition to that, that's why I think that there is some other move that I think will be the signature move of the offseason.
Yeah, and if they do that, that'll squash my theory. It'll squash the theory.
But yes, I would understand if there's a little theatrics going on because of the Bally's thing. Your thoughts, 314-399-9646. And you're also welcome to participate in the YouTube chat. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. It's Balloon Party, 101 ESPN.
Well, folks, the world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is now in Illinois. That's right. The Circa Sports app is available for download in Illinois, and you can start placing bets. The Circa Sports app is sports betting the way it should be, with big app bets, high betting limits, tight money line splits, and the best customer service around. The best news of all is the Circa Sports app is available in Illinois. So if you live here in St. Louis, you make the drive across the river, or if you already live in Illinois, sign up. Plenty of conference championship college football action to gamble on this weekend. Also plenty of NFL, hockey, basketball, whatever you like, the Circa Sports app has for you. Visit circasports.com for more details and get ready to start betting like a pro. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Welcome back. Bloom Party 101 ESPN. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you for another 6 minutes, but it's going to be 6 minutes of magic because Jackson's going to ask a question that's going to carry us to BK and Ferrario. The question is, what question will that be?
The question is, what's the question? The question is, looking at championship weekend for college football, what favorite do you think is most susceptible to an upset that could throw a wrench in the entire CFP playoff picture? That was redundant, but I apologize.
It's all right. You're fine.
And
You're fine.
what hashtag chaos would most entertain you in terms of a CFP shakeup?
My answer is the same. And my answer is Alabama beating Georgia. I think Georgia is a great team. I also think Alabama is a great team. And I think that when a team either loses going into a week, i.e. LSU going into Missouri after losing in Oxford, thought that was a problem for the Tigers, or a team wins a game but they dodge a bullet, you will then see them come out with a fire under their asses, like we saw with Missouri against Arkansas after dodging the 4th and 17 bullet against Florida. Alabama is a totally different team right now, in my opinion, than they were when they lost to Texas at home and they had a near-death experience with South Florida in September. And Georgia's a great team, but it's also a beat-up team. Brock Bowers dressed but didn't play against Georgia Tech. Ladd McConkey did not play, and they were into their backup running backs in order to get through that game. So with that established, Alabama's a great team. Doesn't mean Georgia's bad. It just means I think that they are vulnerable. They're only a 5.5-point favorite. And so that is the one that, as Kirk Herbstreit said last night on ESPN's College Football Playoff Rankings show, if Georgia loses, you're going to tell me they aren't one of the 4 best teams in the country or are one of the 4 most deserving? Because they serve both masters there. Who in college football, I don't care if you're a Big Ten guy, a Pac-12 guy, a Big 12 guy, if so, God help, that you'd go, yeah, I don't think Georgia's one of the 4 best teams, even if they lose to Alabama. I suppose if they lost like 48-7.
Right, if they got smoked.
But if it's a relatively close game, after winning the games that they won in November in the fashion that they won them, that they wouldn't be one of the 4 best teams, that would be really tough. Okay, so let's just play that scenario out for the sake of doing so.
Yep.
Georgia has now lost to Alabama. As much as I'd enjoy, just for the sake of the entertainment of it, Michigan losing to Iowa, I can't entertain it. I'll pull for it. It'd be great to see it just from an entertainment standpoint. But I got to put Michigan's already in. Yep. So that spot's spoken for. If Georgia were to lose, then I think a lot of people go, well, Alabama has to be in. But then let's say Texas beats Oklahoma State, and then you get into the conversation, well, if Alabama is going to go in, well, then I guess Texas has to go in because Texas won by double digits in Tuscaloosa. So if that would be the case, and we got Michigan in, and we got Alabama in, and we got Texas in, well, now we still have to have a spot for Oregon or Washington.
Yep.
And then what about Florida State? And what about Georgia?
And this chaos, really, like the Georgia-Alabama game, which is 5.5 points, I believe. Florida State's only 2.5-point favorite, but I was going to say that it's the closest game spread-wise, but it's not. Either way, it's a very close spread. It's under a score.
Oregon's a near double-digit favorite against Washington, an undefeated number 3 Washington.
Right, and Michigan's 23. Yeah, 23-point favorite. But Alabama being Georgia is far from out of the world. Like, that could very well happen. And if that happens, then chaos ensues.
I would imagine the game that the committee would want the most to happen. Let me see if you're on the right. Of the championship games, the one that they would most like to have happen.
Louisville beating Florida State.
Yeah, that's a nice play. I was going to go with Oklahoma State being Texas. Because Texas has the Alabama-Georgia thing that causes 3 blue bloods, all of whom, by the way, I think could win the championship.
Yeah.
Whereas Florida State, I don't think could win the championship, but if they're undefeated, I think they have to be in. And I saw Herbstreit and Greg McElroy last night kind of got uncomfortable, too, a little bit. I mean, you can tell when people are kind of just busting balls.
Right.
This seemed like there was a little bit more to it. With Herbstreit and McElroy, I could be off the mark. Who effing cares anyway? I could have just been debating and felt passionately about it. But either way, Herbstreit's thing is, who are the 4 best teams? And that's what the College Football Playoff Committee's responsibility is. McElroy's is who are the 4 most deserving. If you go 4 most deserving, Florida State is in if they're undefeated. And I put a period at the end of that sentence, and I feel passionately about it, even though, even right now, I don't think they are one of the 4 best teams. I'm not sure I felt they were when they had Jordan Travis at quarterback.
I was the same way.
But either way, if they win, I feel like they got to be in. And what Herb Street's example for data was, if you look at the semifinals since the advent of the college football playoff in 2014, the semifinals, really minus last year where you had Texas Christian against Michigan and you had Georgia against Ohio State, you've had blowouts all over the place. At some point in the college football playoff, there have been big-time blowouts. Last year, the blowout wound up being in the championship game. And he goes, the reason for that is because we're putting in the quote-unquote deserving, but we're not putting in the best. And the charge is to put in the best. And if you put in the best, and you have a Georgia, and you have a Michigan, and then you have an Oregon or Washington, and then take your pick of one of those ones that are on the fence, the odds are you're not going to get a blowout. But you bring Florida State in with a backup quarterback, and they go up against Georgia or even Michigan, and I just don't know how in the hell that's going to be a good game. By the way, I would love to see it. But, I mean, listen, if Florida State got paired with Missouri in the Peach Bowl, I would take Missouri, and I would bet it easily, and it's got nothing to do with me going to Missouri. But if they're undefeated, I think they have to be in the college football playoff. So, yes, I agree that that one could solve a lot of problems, but if Georgia were to beat Alabama or Texas were to be beaten by Oklahoma State, that whole Texas-Alabama-Georgia one-loss debacle that the committee could be staring at next Saturday night is now eviscerated. BK and Ferrario coming up next. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Munganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, presenting sponsor of Balloon Party, the place I go to get my cars, the place I would love to see you go and get your cars as well, or just get your car serviced. Even if you didn't get your car from Munganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, get it serviced there and experience the joy that is having any concerns about dealing with somebody in the automotive industry mitigated, because now you're dealing with first-class people and people who want to hear directly from you by giving out a secret phone number for our listeners, and that number is 314-252-0029. You can call it, you can text it, or you can go online at stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com and work with Munganass, St. Louis Acura, and Munganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. It's where I go. It's where my family goes. It's where hundreds of our listeners go, and I would love to see you do the same thing, to get new cars, to get pre-owned cars, or to get your car serviced. It's Munganass, St. Louis Acura, stlouisacura.com, and Munganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota at altontoyota.com. Munganass.